Hello and welcome to Dancer Past. I'm Lottie and today we're going to be doing a Georgian wig and makeup tutorial. So I'm going to start with putting my wig cap on, make sure I get all those pesky ginger hair out of the way, and then once I look very attractive we can start with the makeup. So of course the Georgians are famous for their very white skin, so I'm using white face paint. In order to get that complexion, I'm using a wet beauty blender to get it nice and smooth on my skin, making sure that I go around the eyes in particular because there will be no eye makeup for this tutorial. And then I'm going in with a very strong blush. The blush is going all the way down the side of your face from about where your eyebrow ends, all the way down to the bottom of your cheek, and then all the way across underneath your eyes, like a triangle. You want to look like you've been properly slapped in the face or you've got a nasty rash. It's a lot of blush, and you can also blush your ears to continue that sort of mask of blush across your whole face. The only area you really want to avoid is your nose, although you might put a little apple right on the end, but like I said, a lot of blush. So you want to go in with an eyebrow pencil now and make our eyebrows nice and thick. Satire at the time used to say that ladies put mouse fur on their eyebrows, so you want to make them really look thick and chunky and furry, so the thicker the better. So now onto lipstick. We want to take a red lipstick and we want to use our finger to dab it on to give it a bit more of a natural look, as natural as it can be with white skin and bright red lipstick. And trying not to make yourself look like a clown, as I did originally. So then we want to use a liquid eyeliner, probably a pen form to start off with, and then maybe go in with a bit more of a liquid liner to give it a darker shade. But we want to draw our beauty marks on. Now originally these would have been in material that was stuck on, but the easiest way to create this look is just to draw them on. You can do a variety of different shapes and placement and all sorts of things, and they have hidden meanings, so research that in your own time and add to that if you will. So that's the finished look. But of course the centerpiece of Georgian attire is the wig. You can see some beautiful examples, first-hand sources that I used here to inspire me. So to start we need to make a frame for that big poof of hair to go over. When you do this out of jewellery wire, you might want two types. A thicker one to make the structure of the frame and a thinner one to just bulk it out in between. Anywhere where the wires intersect you want to put some strong thread around them and then some strong tape, duct tape or similar. And then you want to sew some cheesecloth material or some netting onto this wire frame. As you go along you want to make sure regularly that it fits on your head. You need to design it for your head, for your wig. You'll probably want it to come down further at the back than it is at the front, and you also want to consider how much hair you have on the wig and how much height you can therefore get. Whilst you do this you want to curl your wig, steam the rolls using a handheld steamer, leave it overnight, and then undo the rolls the next day and brush it out to create some volume. Then want to make sure you part the wig, trying to put as much hair to the front and the back and the sides as possible, so that when you place your frame over the top you are taking up as little hair as possible. You then need to sew this contraption onto your wig, which is a bit daunting. You're just going to sew around the base, making sure the whole of it is secure onto the wig. Obviously be careful not to sew your wig and the structure onto your head, and you might find it easier to do certain areas, in particular areas like the front and the back, by taking it off a wig stand. So make sure it's nice and secure on there, make sure the wig still fits, and then we can start doing the hair. So what we're going to do is wet each strand, comb it out, try and get all the tangles out, and then place it over the top of your structure, your wig structure, and sew it into place. So each strand will go along and then it'll be sewn into place. You can use one piece of thread for the whole back, the whole side, the whole front. Just making sure that you leave those little extra tabbies at the end loose, because we're going to use them again in a minute. So once we've finished, the top layer of hair should be sewn over a little wig cage contraption. There'll still be some holes missing, but we should have got a reasonable base going, and then we will cover it in hairspray. We're then going to use those little tabbies that we've kept to go back down and cover any gaps, and then we've also got all this hair at the bottom ready to go on top, so don't panic yet if it's not fully covered. So I want the hair to go up the side of the cage, over the top and down the other side. So I'm making sure that I split it so that any hair that was at the front is now going over to the back, any hair that was at the back is now going over to the front, and they're going to crisscross to try and get the best coverage. I'm then going to put those little tails down in between where I've got the hair strands coming up, fill in any gaps, and then once again sew them into place so that I can try and get a bit more coverage without having to use that second layer of hair. Once again, we're trying to get it as covered as possible, but we are going to put some more hair over the top, so don't worry if it's not as neat, or if your stitches are showing, or if it's still got gaps in it. At the moment, we're just trying to get that nice big base up and hide the cotton structure underneath. So now we've got that coverage, we're going to take the next layer of hair. This one we're going to make sure that each strand is hairsprayed beforehand, that it's combed through so it's as nice and neat and straight as possible, and then we are going to put it up and over the structure as neatly as possible, so you want, one next to the other and as little gaps as possible. So this layer is going to be on show, so you want it to, as neatly as possible, cover everything that's underneath. But if you do have an issue with not having quite enough, don't panic. As you can see on this version, I pulled over the hair to the side and then I covered it with some material later on, so don't worry too much. And now you've got your hair nice and neatly up and over the poof, you no longer need those little pesky tabs that are at the end. So what we're actually going to do is cut those off so that we can use them as an extra bit of hair later on. So we're going to put up our last little bits of hair, make sure everything's hairsprayed into place. We are going to make sure that any loose ends that we have can tuck into those holes. If we've got any extra puffy bits at the corners, they can tuck quite nicely in to cover the top of the structure. We want to make sure that it's nice and smooth and covered all the way around as much as possible, and then of course hairspray. So remembering those little tabs we cut off, we're now going to make some extra bits of hair for them. So we're going to take our duct tape, make sure we cut a strip equal to the amount of hair we want to cover. We're going to lay the tape out, lay all our tabbies along there, making sure they're nice and neat all the way along. Fold the tape over, and there we have a little hair weave. And this could be stitched onto the wig in the place where you need this extra hair. Now onto the decoration. I cut out a piece of material to sew onto that little hole that I had at the front. Remember where I said it wouldn't quite cover? This was a really good way to cover up any areas where you haven't quite got enough hair, and it is contemporary to the period. Then I rolled up those little weaves so that I could create these rolls at the back and placed a bow in. And then we stitched all my decorations on. Flowers, feathers, ribbons, anything you can think of the Georgians put in their hair. I've even put a string of pearls in my hair. as seen on lots of these portraits. If you really wanted to go out, you could even put a ship in there, like Marie Antoinette did. But basically just put as much decoration as you can in there, sew it on, sew it into the wig, onto your base, and then I also went in with a hot glue gun to make sure that everything was firm and stable in place, and to attach some of those things like the feathers that were quite difficult to stitch on. And there you have a Georgian wig.